Welcome to Impact Farming, where we introduce you to the people and ideas that will have a massive impact on your farming operation. Brought to you by Farm Marketer. Sit down, start the engine, and let's roll with today's show.
Learn more about KWS Hybrid Rye. From seeding to feeding to selling, let's unlock more potential on your farm. Tune into our episodes and visit kws.com/ca.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Impact Farming Show. Today, I have an amazing guest joining me. I have Jonathon Haralson, rancher and founder of Empire Ag. How are you, Jonathon?
I'm good, Tracy. I'm glad to be on the show.
Good. I am so excited to have you on. My TikTok friend, I watch you on YouTube, TikTok, see you. So it's nice to have you on the show to share with our audience. I'm going to get you to share your story, but to set the stage for our conversation, we're going to talk about really all things ag. We're going to go through your story, launching Empire Ag. We're going to talk about the 80s crisis, challenges, opportunities, succession, advice to young farmers. So this is going to be a full and fantastic conversation. No pressure, Jonathon.
Hey, that's okay. That's okay.
You'll do great. I love it. Okay, so why don't you start and share your story? I'm excited.
Yeah, so I grew up in Texas, north central Texas, and grew up in a farm and ranch family. I mean, we raised wheat, had a backgrounding yard, cow-calf operation, pecan orchard, like very diversified. So I grew to love, whether it was the agronomic side of it or the livestock side of it. I enjoyed always having something unique to do and then watching the different seasons, whether that's growing the crop or watching the cattle grow. And so that love was built during that time. And also it didn't hurt. I did enjoy burning diesel fuel at that point. Just the smell, of the earth, running the tractors like any kid. That's where we all get started and get hooked.
Absolutely.
And then we're raising cattle. We're doing our thing. Our local bank ended up getting bought out, and that put pressure. This was back in the 80s. I'm an 83 model, so by the time this had happened, I think I was around 5 or 6 years old at that time. So kind of late 80s time frame.
Yeah.
And and our bank, they wanted to divest of agriculture because at that time it was deemed pretty risky. And so from a loan profile, they could look at that and just say, hey, guys, thanks for all the history that you've got, but we're under new management and we don't need you anymore. And it was us. It was all of our neighbors. It wasn't that you did anything wrong. It wasn't that anything was bad in the business other than they just deemed agriculture not friendly right now, much like what we're seeing today. Yeah, so I mean, all of us had to take our equipment, line it up, and one of the guys outside of town had this big hayfield. We all brought our equipment and lined it up. As a kid, I didn't know what was actually happening. I will commend my dad and my grandfather for, I look back at that and really all of our neighbors. When all of that was going on, nobody was really downtrodden or looked depressed or, and I kind of look back at that situation and I feel like everybody was fairly supportive, like I think as a community, like we were everybody knew what was going on. And I felt like nobody was really beating anybody up over that. So,
yeah.
You know how sometimes it can not seem the friendliest of environments when it's so much competitiveness in agriculture.
Yeah.
And so that was kind of an interesting time in my life. I didn't realize it, but the life that I grew up with and dreamed of and thought that, eventually I'd come back and just farm, I didn't realize that was kind of vanishing at that point. We were able to maintain, the main headquarters of the family land. and we always operated our cow calf operation, the pecan orchard, had hay, kind of dropped the grain system at that point in time.
Okay.
And and so my brother and I mean, we grew up with my dad, my grandfather, and dad had to go into town and get a job, so he was a meat inspector at that point in time. But we still farmed and ranched on the weekends and after after hours, and my brother and I helped my grandpa do that. So the operation got a lot smaller. Um, and then like most kids, I mean, during your high school years, your my attention was not on the farm. It was on other things, trying to explore like what my path may end up being. And so I ended up going to Texas A&M and majored in agriculture, fully intending that I would work in some support role, possibly. But I thought ag is where I was going to be. So I get out of there. I work for an ag organization, doing some lobbying activities, educational activities. It was fun. I enjoyed it. Met a lot of folks, built a lot of relationships during that time. But the pull back to production agriculture was too strong, and I was looking for an opportunity, and one of my one of my senior fellows at that organization, he said, Jonathan, are you working for the company, or are you working for Haralson Enterprises? And I'm like, well, today it's funny that you asked that.
Yeah, of course.
And
Yeah.
and so, at that time, you're looking for any opportunity because the land base was gone. I mean, there's no way that dad could help get me started. Like you're in that spot, and everybody's telling you can't start from scratch.
Yeah.
And I've lived my life proving people wrong, and I will continue to do that because I feel like anytime that you're told that you can't, there is a way. You're just not looking deep enough. And sometimes traditional problems, or the way that we typically solve, we've got to think outside the box.
Yeah.
And I think we as in agriculture has allowed ourselves to be just buttoned up and stuck in that box. And there's only one way you can do it, and that's how we have to break out. So for the young folks out there, I encourage you, don't give up on your dream. Keep thinking, look deeper. There is a will if there's a way, I promise.
I
Um,
know sorry to jump in there. I know we're going to talk about it a little bit later, but this seems like a good point to say it because I see it in you. I see it in me. And I see it in anybody that makes it as farmers. We're a certain kind of person and we want to do our own thing. We're not going to be satisfied in a role. And I mean, like any trait,
yeah,
good and bad to it. But I could see that in your story where you're like, okay, I'm in a job, but I had the dreams of farming. I want to do my own thing. I'm just not going to be happy here. Right. So
yeah.
I'm seeing the threads of your story here.
And I think too, you've got to realize it's not going to always be roses, and it is you are going to encounter tough times, and I think a lot of times we just have to have that grit, and that grittiness is going to get you over the hump. And there's going to be times where you're literally going to work a year with no income,
Right.
and like before you even go down this journey, like you've got to realize that that is a possibility.
Yeah.
And I I did it for, I guess it was nearly 4 years. While you're building, you're just debt servicing, and you're just surviving at that point. And
Entrepreneur is a different breed. You're kind of
yeah,
like just a little bit of a pit bull that you're like, I don't care. Come what may, I'm going to make this happen, right? And you're working full time and growing the herd on the side. So you have a cool story. And I'm going to say this here, and then we're going to pick it back up here and then go to
yeah,
your story, kind of a rabbit trail here, the best conversations. This is important. I want to shine a spotlight. Your story and how you actually start into farming on your own is neat. And I want to shine a spotlight here because I heard you say before we started recording, the boomer generation, the older generation are
Yeah.
saying, we bootstrapped, we did it this way. But that's not quite the same. And the individual that comes into farming now, it's going to look different. So I kind of want to set that stage for your story too.
Yeah. In every one of us is unique. Every generation is unique. And if you look back at economics, if you're a student of economics, nobody has the same decade. And you cannot sit here and say, especially in an industry like agriculture, you cannot start the same way that I did. So like if I look at the way that my grandfather got started, my dad, the things that they encountered during the 80s, our generation now, and the guys that are in the mid 30s to early 50s, like it's different what we've encountered as to what this younger generation that's coming up, these 20-year-olds.
Yeah.
Like if you look at inflation over the last 5 years, can you start the same way that I started? I don't think it would be possible. I don't think you could debt service. Inflation has allowed the value of what we bought. I mean, if we sit there and look at all the equipment, the cattle, the everything that we've bought and put together, at that time was a little over 1,400,000. And now you're sitting here going, okay, well now I'd have to borrow 2.4 to 2.6, 2.8 to do the exact same thing. But hey, by the way, we're going to structure the loan the same
Yeah. Good luck.
because the finance structure has not changed.
Oh, yes.
Everything that we're looking at is exactly the same. But on our income side, yes, we are having, the crop side obviously is lacking right now for grains. Livestock's doing well. So this is one thing where being diversified, I think, really helped us in our path. And I highly recommend it for our clients just to look at, and I preach cash flow. Like everything that you do for an operation, evaluate the cash flow because that is the lagging indicator that like for everything that we do is we don't have enough cash flow. And banks look at that and they hate it because we have big volumes of dollars out for a long time.
Yeah.
We get
Cash
paid one
flow's
time a
king.
year.
Yeah. Yeah. It is, I wonder, and there's probably stats. I think even in mainstream business, most businesses fail to get going, like to keep on going, like you start a new business, restaurant, whatever it is. Cash flow is the reason they fail. I
Yeah.
would imagine, and I know personally to hop in there when we started farming, there is nothing, no, I'm sorry, no university class, because I took them, that will teach you about cash flowing a farm business other than essentially, I mean, there's book learning and then there's
Yeah.
like getting in and cash flowing a farm. Whew, that's a fanciful little math equation right there.
Well, and we were a group of us farmers and ranchers were sitting around. We were talking. We were at a farm meeting last week, and and we're the only industry of which you go get a part-time job in town, or maybe two or three of those, or you have a trucking company. You have a side gig to support the farm.
Yeah.
You don't ever see a plumber that owns a plumbing business in town with a side job that has nothing associated to what his trade is.
Isn't that true? That's crazy.
It's to me, I think it is kind of interesting when you get to really dig in through that because I mean there is a passion, yes, there's a lifestyle, but we have to run it like a business.
I agree.
And I think for everything we do, forget the traditions
Yeah.
and really evaluate the why and the how and where you want to go.
Mm,
Put those pieces together first
yeah.
and then decide what those cash flowing items can be to help you. Now, we were talking about the difference in generations,
Yeah.
and this whole bootstrap narrative that hey, this younger generation's lazy, they can't do it. We just went out and bought ground and it just worked. Well,
Right.
when you bought ground, it actually cash flowed on a 15-year note.
Right.
The stuff now, depending on where you're at in the U.S., it could be 100 years before it actually cash flowed, up to 500 years for it to cash flow to paying for some of these loans. It's been interesting to watch that in social media where some guys are in real estate. They're really been kind of evaluating, like from a production agriculture standpoint, where are we actually in the scale? Well, we're we're just a side piece to the whole real estate play, you
Mm,
know.
yeah.
And
You
if
know, oh, sorry. Go ahead, Jonathan. Keep on.
Well, and if you're gonna buy ground, you've got to look at it like you're a land investor, and you've got to look at it from the core of the earth to the tip top of the sky, and everything in between, whether it's the wind, the water, the sun, every aspect, all the rights that are out there. You've got to look at that and truly think about what can you do to create revenue on that ground.
Right. And well, and you're seeing people doing that, right? And it's funny, go to Twitter, X, and you just see all the conversations, right? You see the
Absolutely.
guys that are doing the solar panels, and they're doing it because that's what they feel they need to do to cash flow the land and keep it in the family. And then
Sure.
you hear the haters on there that they're like, you're ruining the land. So it's interesting. It's funny that you say from the sun to the water to the mineral rights, whatever you said there.
Yeah.
That's different because us and older would be like, let's farm this ground with grain. Let's farm this ground with cattle. I mean, obviously, the bad years was a different conversation, but that's a good
And and,
point.
and the thing is I mean, yeah, they could do that, like from the 50s up to 1980. I mean,
Yeah.
they could kind of do that, but now we've just had inflation has creeped in so bad, and we haven't seen it within the grain and livestock sector in the straight correlation, like as far as where those prices should be correlated to the real estate
Mm,
inputs, sheer net dollars.
yeah. I like this conversation. Okay, so I'm going to take you back on a winding trail and grab your story. So you went to university, you're out in the working world. Take it from there.
Okay, so we decide I want to get back into production agriculture,
Yeah.
and a good friend of ours said that he had 80 acres that he wanted to give us an opportunity because he was going to kind of retire. Um, Here's the kicker, though: I didn't have any equipment. Um, Everybody was mad because we had rented the ground,
Okay.
and they wanted it, and
Right.
so nobody was going to help us as far because I had tried to get some guys to to custom farm it for me that first year just to get our feet wet, find some deals on equipment, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
um couldn't find that. We end up uh I traded a 30-gallon drum of Roundup, and at that time the Chinese had shut down the plant, so like it shot up in value big time.
Okay.
A local farmer had a John Deere 235 disc, which we all can't stand now because we had to rebuild it twice. And it's like if I see one of those, I cringe and kind of chuckle, and think,
Trauma.
man,
Yeah.
yeah,
Equipment trauma.
it was bad. And then there was a local guy that had doubled down on some genetics, long story short, had some donor females that ended up being commercial females because they had some genetic disorder that they then could not market. So totally devastated their operation, and
Yeah.
they had a tractor that we borrowed,
Okay.
knowing that the bank was going to take that tractor back um, in a week. I had a week to plow everything, get our crops in, and literally work 24/7. And we did what we had to do,
Oh,
and then
that farmer
delivered.
was going under.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
wow. Wow.
and
Talk about getting gritty. It's like, hey, my tractor's being repoed. Come use it.
yeah.
That's
He's like,
fantastic.
take it, take it. The
Yeah.
bank's gonna want it. They want it delivered here. You know, if you can get plow my stuff up, plow this, get your stuff taken care of. And we'll roll on. And
Nice for you.
so that was our start.
Wow.
And it's just and it makes it fun. And I remember I was on like there's probably 4 or 5 passes left, and a guy pulls up in a Z71 khakis. He's walking through the field, and I'm like, oh, I don't know who this guy is. And he rides in the tractor, really nice guy. Ask how the tractor is, he's with the bank. Just wanted to know if we could have it there the next day. And I'm like, absolutely, about to finish up. So
Oopsies.
we'll even clean it up and send it your way.
The banker coming to check on his equipment. No boy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, wow. That is, I mean, I feel bad for the farmer going out of business, but talk about the resourcefulness of farmers, right?
Yeah.
That's amazing. Just
Yeah.
use my tractor. The bank's coming for it. Get the most out of it. Yeah.
Yeah. It's, and you really, and those kind of stories really make you feel good because there are good individuals out there.
Yeah.
And he saw the need. I mean, there was nothing that any of us could do to help his situation, but he was willing to take a chance and help us, and I appreciate that.
That's nice. So you traded a barrel of Roundup for
Yeah.
a disc. You used the neighbor's tractor before the bank came. You're just hustling to get your 80 acres done. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And so we started with 80 acres and we got up to um, right at 1,500 acres row crop and running 400 head of cows. Also having some stocker cattle that we would graze on, say, winter wheat. We kind of do those things off and on, and we fed cattle. We do hay production. I mean, just a very diversified operation. And it's like so many people were counting against us during that time frame, and you just had to keep gritty and just continue to push and continue to push. And it's just that right there, I think, really taught me that just you've got to continue, and it's going to be tough, and there's going to be a lot of people going against you, especially in this industry, because you know they think they were entitled to the 10 years ago they should be getting that 300 acres or 600 acres or whatever the case may be, and it's going to take rental ground in order for you to grow an operation this day and time. It's going to take it.
Yeah.
You can't jump out there and go buy, 2,000 acres and expect that it's going to be profitable in the next 20, 30 years with the economy the way it is today.
Well, and I'm assuming, I think you said that about your time too. We're looking here, and it's weird. I think sometimes the conversation is slow to upgrade, like the whole
Sure.
narrative of an industry I'm finding. And farmers, it's like, okay, buy land, start your farm, but it's like, okay, this doesn't cash flow. And how does this make sense? And an off farm job will only support so much. And for the first time, I love this conversation and where we're going to go. But for the first time, I had a succession planning guest. And maybe it's just because it came up in the right context. But for the first time, she said to the young generation, I think we need to detach ourselves from the idea of owning land. And that's the
Hmm.
first time I heard it. And I mean, land values likely in your area and a lot of the states are inflated compared to up here. So
Oh,
we're having,
absolutely.
yeah, I mean, and depending on our province, just like your state and area. But see, if you talk to a young farmer, I'd imagine, and you talk to a lot of people, it's buy land. I don't think we've upgraded the narrative, unfortunately and fortunately,
Hmm.
for the young farmers to say, you need to hustle and rent land and then wait for the opportunity. I think a lot of the young generation are like, I'm buying land. It's like, okay.
Well, and I think too, a lot of our non-farming and ranching neighbors in the cities, like they just can't figure out why we don't just buy land and get started. And I think that narrative is almost being pushed in social media, and I've seen this across a lot of the metro areas where there is an interest in what we do and where their food comes from and how we do it. And so, but I think there's such a disconnect on the economic piece of it. You could buy 20 acres, and but you're not going to make a living. You can't
Right.
raise your family of four, and you're going to work just as hard on that 40 acres as you would farming 1,000 right now with the technologies or 4,000 acres. And so there is a scale to agriculture that I think is misunderstood. It's not that we're big business and evil corporations that a lot of the non the non-agriculture folks that follow us think is going on. You know, I know a 30,000 acre farm that is a family farm. I mean, on the surface, it is big. It is absolutely big. But technology has allowed those folks to farm that 30,000 acres, do it efficiently, and generate income for five families, six families that are tied to that. So, you know, and we talk about you and I earlier. We were talking about just the state of the economy as far as how much money it takes for like a family of four, you know, to live. And I think one thing that's interesting at this conference we were at, it was $132,000 for a family of four. This was not to get ahead. This was literally just vehicles, insurance, health insurance, food, mortgage, like all the basics. And it's just how much that has inflated over the last 5 to 6 years.
Yeah.
Now, here for my farmers and ranchers that are out there listening, um, how many of you pay yourself $132,000 US?
I think there's crickets in the audience right now.
Yeah.
I'd imagine. Yeah.
It's just and we work with farmers all over the US, and I don't see them paying themselves that much when it comes to wages. So
132,000. And again, I'm going to be like an old person right now and go, back in my day, the
yeah.
famous line. Like when I started my career, my goodness, I started at like what, 25,000, and then like
Uh-huh.
40,000, I was like taking over the world. And yes, of course, I sound like the old person. We're in a different world, but 132,000, that was like rich. If
I know.
if a family was bringing in that amount of money, two people to support
Hmm.
a family of four, and again, I'm going back like an old person tends to do, but 132,000, you were rich if you were making that. Not
Yeah.
that long ago. I'm not that old. Literally, that was like 20 years ago, 25 years ago.
Well, you know, like I think a lot of things, and I'm sure it varies with
Right,
Canada versus the U.S., but you know, our health insurance, like
right.
we pay $27,000 a year for health insurance right now.
That's insane.
Um, Home insurance has skyrocketed. I've seen it seems like everybody that we work with right now, they were paying $2,000 to $3,000 on their home. Now it's 6 to 10.
Oh my
You know,
goodness.
the the mortgages, like it's been insane because the good old days of 7 to 800 bucks, $900 on a mortgage, like those are gone. I
Yeah.
haven't seen anybody's come across that's under $2,000 a month. So like when you really get to diving into this is not like living lavishly. This is just subsistence living, just barely getting by, not even putting back for retirement, anything of that nature.
Wow. Exactly like they say. And sometimes I like to flip between the agriculture world
Uh
and
huh.
farm business to the
Yep.
mainstream business and the startup culture. And there's a lot of similarities. I mean, the average family can't afford to buy anymore. They're
Sure.
renting, right? Or the
Yeah.
younger ones getting up. If you didn't buy before what year? The average family has to have two jobs. The farm needs, right? Like there's a lot of similarities, but it's just quite expensive.
Yeah. It's just I think we've reached that critical mass where the math isn't mathing
Yeah,
anymore,
yeah.
and people need to understand that. I mean, something needs to be done, and this isn't just a U.S. problem or
No,
just a Canada problem. Like this is a global issue. I've talked to a lot of farmers and ranchers all across the globe, and we're all dealing with the same thing.
isn't it true? Okay. I keep on taking you down on rabbit trails, which I think
That's
is
okay.
great because I think the best conversations kind of go down those rabbit trails, right? I want to lead you through that working space. You're there. When you were building your farm, were you working still?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, I kind of farmed at night, and we used to joke that I didn't know what my fields looked like during the daytime. you know?
Oh, that's what it looks like. Pretty.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's a tough time to do that. You had, junky equipment the only stuff you could afford.
Yeah.
Um, so you were always working on it because you couldn't afford anybody to actually work on it for you. Which those are good lessons. And that piece, I'm glad that we did it the way we did it, you know? Um, and I feel like as we're growing the farm and getting that, built up into, a sizable operation, then it came, hey, maybe we need some employees, and then it's like I wanted to build a culture where somebody that could enjoy working there, and it wasn't just a job. I wanted somebody to buy into the culture, see the vision that we saw, like I wanted that for somebody. And so it allowed us to grow. I mean, I had to just look where could we allocate dollars to allow us to kind of do that. And we've had two guys. One left us after 11 years,
Wow.
um, but he started his own thing, and
Okay.
and it was actually kind of bittersweet because I tried to inspire him and all of our guys to better themselves, and I believe in the entrepreneurial spirit. I believe that starting your own thing there's nothing better.
Mm,
Um, and so I wanted to cultivate that relationship. And as we grew the operation, it was critical that we had those key employees that we could count on. And I didn't have to look over their shoulder. And that was instrumental in us kind of getting to the next level.
nice. I'm going to ask you a quick question.
Yeah.
If you could go back and have your farm handed to you, would you want that? I guess yes and no, right?
Yeah. From a financial standpoint, yes, I would love to have had
Yeah.
it handed.
Yeah.
But also from the self-development phase of life, and I think too often we are too quick. We visualize what the ending looks like, and we visualize what do we want our life to be, and I think a lot of times we forget the journey,
Yes.
and the journey is what it's all about, and you're living in the moment, you're living in that time, and I think those lessons and the people, the relationships that I built during those times, sometimes whenever there was a hard thing that happened, that was whenever I met somebody that helped during that process, and those relationships were forged, and I don't think that you can establish that if everything was given to you on a silver platter.
That's what
So
I'm getting at. I built this media company 17 years ago. We built our farm. Sure, we worked with Anthony's parents, but we weren't
yeah,
handed our land. We've bought,
absolutely.
like we had that blessing to
Uh-huh.
work with and start up and grow that way. So that is huge right there. But we bought all our own cows. Like we didn't really
Sure.
have that given to us. All our cows to where we are today, all our land, all our machinery. But I think that's something that doesn't get relayed enough to the young generation. And you don't like hearing it because it's not nice. I remember being in a bank and I was like 23 years old or 24, starting farm marketer. I had this
Yeah.
idea for this media company. And of course, I wanted to be like big and making lots of money because I'm an aggressive entrepreneur. And
Yeah.
go in, and behind this banker, I see this cliche sign. It's not the destination, it's the journey. Man, did that sign tick me off, right? Because you're in the
It's
beginning age when it's hard and you
it's
want to
so
be
true though.
there. But the whole darn joy of life is that journey that you walked. And I think if you're handed everything, you're robbed of that.
I agree. And I think that gives you that, like, we're in a very cycle based business.
Yeah.
And so there's going to be good times, there's going to be bad times. And the other thing for young people is timing is everything.
Mm,
Sometimes when the guy that's 40 or 50 is telling you like slow your roll,
yeah.
slow down.
Yeah.
Like they're not trying to keep you down because you're not worthy of being at their level. They're trying to knock down some of those things that are going to chop your kneecaps off
Yeah.
and just waylay you that you don't even see coming.
Yeah.
And I had a young man that I've worked with. He's in his mid 20s, had no debt, was in a great situation, and just wanted to be there, wanted to be at the big show, and jumps into 2.6, yeah, $2.6 million worth of debt. Just barrel rolls right into this thing.
Wow.
And I was trying to slow him down, and he sees it now. He was actually advising a young guy that was wanting to get started, and he was like, "Listen, I messed up. You don't want to be like me.
Yeah.
Like I had it made here, and I've kind of wrecked shop, but I'm gonna make it. But you don't have to have that stress. You don't have to stay up at night. You don't have to deal with these bankers that are upset with you." And like he was just going through all the process with everybody, and I thought it was interesting for him to share all of that. It's come full circle.
Doesn't the best wisdom come from making all the mistakes?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I say this because I've heard you share a sentiment similar to that. And then I think a lot of your journey and then some of your later jobs went hand in hand to saying, hey, I need to help farmers, right? With
Yeah.
Empire Egg. And that was kind of the idea there.
Yeah. So really, I mean, so we start the farm, and then I jump in, and I wanted to learn the markets. I felt like I needed an edge. And with all the volatility that was going on at the time, I could see that there was a way to navigate the markets and to minimize some of the risk, because I just felt like there was a hole in our business, and we were just subject to the whims. And if we picked the wrong day to market that year, like that's it. You got one shot to make it win or lose. Why are we doing that to ourselves? And so through a mutual connection, I end up as a broker with a firm in Chicago,
Okay.
and so I worked with Daniels Trading, then got bought out by StoneX and worked with StoneX for a little bit before I opened Empire Ag.
Okay.
And in those early days, what I could see is rather than selling trades, these farmers and ranchers needed more help, and it was the financial piece. So like I couldn't market your grain if we didn't really have good, clean financials,
Right.
and then I couldn't help you navigate the market if I didn't know the risk that you actually had on your operation. So I really got to looking at that, and I thought there's got to be a better way. So I'm out. I'm farming, and there was a farmer in Texas that I looked up to, and he jumped in the tractor, uh, one evening and just poured his heart out. I mean, things were just not good. Um, Financially, he was in a bad spot. The bank was putting some pressure on him. I helped get him reorganized, and he's doing good today.
Nice.
Um, and then I kind of helped another guy that was in Texas that kind of a similar situation. He was just getting some pressure. We had, down here, we have good weather that you could make 200 bushel corn, or we have bad weather and you can make 40 bushel corn.
Mm,
And then you're playing that game because you're in between for federal crop insurance. You're in between where you don't you're kind of in the donut hole where you don't qualify for a insurance payment, but you've got enough yield but it doesn't cover your input cost. So you're kind of in that catch 22 where you're not gonna make it that year.
you're
And
stuck. Yeah.
so I helped a few guys navigate some financial troubles through that, and kind of get themselves established where they were marketing a little bit better, knew some of the tools that were out there to market better. And I just continue to try to serve others. I mean, that was the motto that we lived by, was just serving our fellow men and our farmers and our ranchers. And for us, just with our faith component like that, I felt fulfilled, and so we continued to farm and ranch. But our business continue to grow.
Nice.
And so we had Empire Ag, which is our consulting network. Like this is our piece where we get to know you and we get to know the details of the business. And then we started Empire Financial Services
Okay.
because most of these farmers and ranchers had a spreadsheet, and that was about as good as it got. And we were kind of looking at the different, KPIs and different things we could measure to try to see what was the best return that we were getting on some of our investments on the farm and ranch. They couldn't really tell you. They were just, I spent this much, I brought in this much, I think I'm good. And we were kind of digging through that. So we established our Empire Financial Services, the accounting firm, and started to provide that for our guys. Um, and that in turn led us to putting together a lot of loan packets for a lot of our clients. Helping them restructure debt, helping them secure operating lines, like working through that process, utilizing our risk management to minimize the bank's exposure so that they felt like, hey, this guy's got it together. He's protecting himself. He's protecting the bank. Like he's an operator. And then recently, we started this year. We've added two different things. We added branding, so we have a full on branding division, and then two, we started EA Capital. So we're loaning money to our producers that we have a relationship with. The reason is you may not fit the box that
Right.
conventional banking systems put you in, but we see where you're at. We know your cash flows. We're working with you and trying to develop that path forward. And that's kind of in a nutshell. That's kind of what we have built in our Empire Ag ecosystem.
That's cool. The entrepreneur in me has to ask this question because so
Yeah.
many times I think we're always looking for our place in the world, how we can
Yeah.
help. And
Yep.
then from that, you get that seed of an idea of a business. So you were a broker, you were helping them market their grain, then you were spotting the weaknesses in the financial plan. Like you can't, like you said, you can't market grain if you don't know how much you need. Where do you lock in, right? So
Exactly.
I am curious, and I know it's never just one moment, but when is that moment where you're like, there's something here? Like you're at the broker business. There had to have been a moment where you're like, gut punch, or like, oh my goodness, I need to do the business. Like, what was that moment?
I think whenever I was helping five individuals.
Okay.
And the five individuals were like, look, you're not charging me enough. Like you've added value to our operation. Like they were wanting to pay me.
Mm,
And I was like, okay, I mean, I think I actually have a good business. I think I have something that we can build from. And in those early days, like it's just me. And I'm already used to, I mean, you guys know how it is with farming and ranching. You're putting in a lot of hours. And
mm-hmm.
so when you're looking at that, it wasn't scary to just crank the business up a notch, so to speak. And it was that aha moment, I think, when we hit 15. Um, and I was looking back at the lives that we have impacted,
Mm,
and I felt like not only was it financially, it was mentally, spiritually, and physically. We were having an impact in our farmers and ranchers, and like, to me, that was more important than any kind of monetary return. Was the fact that guys didn't feel helpless. You know, they we weren't worried about suicide. We weren't worried about divorces. Um, like, don't get me wrong, those things do pop up from time to time where you know you struggle in those spots, but I want you to know we've created a safe spot where we can discuss those, we can work through those, and we can get you on the other side. I
yeah.
mean, we have a licensed therapist that works with our group. we
Wow.
actually have we actually have two.
Yeah.
Um and so it's been interesting to normalize that within our industry. um And the other thing is, I feel like you've got it's if a man farms, it's not just the man farming, it's the family is in the farm.
Right.
And it's whether they want to be or not. And I feel like a lot of times the women end up losing their identity
Mm,
in that process. Like they're the homemaker.
yeah.
They're Now they're driving a tractor. They're getting seed. They're helping in whatever facet that they need to fit to help the business succeed. And so we also in our group we created the women's group, and it's fun to allow those women to grow together and
Mm.
to rediscover themselves.
Oh, that's cool.
And that also allows it allows the business to prosper. It allows the marriage to flourish. It allows that communication to be opened back up again. And I think that's important. I mean, we can work on the business, we can work on the numbers, we can do all of that stuff, and it's great. But if those three pillars are missing, and I hate to tell you this, but you're going those weaknesses are going to show up later in life somewhere.
I love that you do mind, body, spirit as the pillars. And I have often said, as an entrepreneur, we're a different breed, right? And
Mhm.
I've heard people talk about mental health, and you need to detach your identity from the farm. And
Good.
I'm gonna get some slack here saying this, but for me, in my experience, and I'm sure
Yeah.
a lot of farmers can relate, I own a media company. I own part owner of a farm with my husband. I think what makes us so successful is you are all in and it becomes your identity. It's not, I know people are going
Yeah.
to hate on me for this, but it's not like a job where you go and you're like, they only pay me so much. I'm only going to do so much. And not everybody works like that. And I leave it. I worry about it a little bit. It's the ones that make it work farming do
There is
so
a
because,
difference.
right? It's
Yeah.
different. So, where I want to go with this, to me in life, as an entrepreneur, I even do financial and entrepreneur coaching on the side. To
Yeah.
me, the basis of life is finances. I don't care what anybody says because we can't pay the bills on love. So going to the
True.
farm, knowing your finances and having a strong financial base is so important. So when people say, "Oh, don't worry about a bad year. Oh, don't get tied up." I'm like, "I'm sorry. When you just lose 200,000, it hits. It
It
hits,
does.
right?"
It's real.
Yeah. So where I'm going with this is I love that there's companies like you that are popping up. I almost call it I don't have the right word, kind of like a freelance, because
Hmm.
in mainstream business, businesses the size of farms have a
Yep.
lot of employees, specialized. You'll have accountants, but farmers, we don't do that. So we wear 12 hats and we can't manage that much. So with just work with me here, I'm seeing these companies like yours pop up
Hmm.
because we need them. We need financial savviness. We need a financial team for the numbers that we're at nowadays, right?
Well, and you got to think back, like even 10 years ago, the mom and pop farm, that they were gross revenues of 1,600,000,
Yeah.
and like that was, I mean, they were quiet people. You saw them in town. They got their tires fixed. They ate at the same restaurant as you. Now they're dealing with $4 and $5 million.
Yeah.
They're not netting any more money, but they are running a much larger company.
Right.
Their asset base that was $4 or $5 million is now 10, 15, 20.
Right.
They've never been taught how to manage that money. They've never been taught how to manage those assets.
Right.
We've got folks that are stumping their toe or utilizing financing that is not really in their best interest or set up for their success, and they just don't know any better.
Right.
And they're good people. They're hardworking people. They need an avenue to help bounce ideas off of. They need an avenue in order to help build them up whenever things are not going their way.
Yeah.
And that's important.
Isn't it? Because these numbers, I mean, the farm that we run ain't my grandfather's farm and isn't
Yeah.
my father-in-law's farm. Like it is different money, different costs. It's a different ball game.
It is. It's scary. And it's also scary how lax we are as operators
Yeah.
with, we've just become accustomed to it,
Yeah.
and it's just, and that's okay. I mean, I think we all need to get, comfortable with where we are in the business, where we're going, what's the expense structure is going to be, where the income's coming from, where to tweak it. You need to know all of that stuff. But the
Yeah.
one thing that I will say too is um I think for us, you have to have that spiritual component.
Mm.
And whatever that case may be, everybody has their own beliefs and all that, and I support that. But if you don't have a vision of what, like you said, you have to decouple yourself. You're not Jim the farmer.
Yeah.
No, you're a Jim. You're a child of God. You are here for a mission and for a purpose. And it's much more than just playing in the dirt.
Mm. I like that. That's the richness of life too. We want that in the good times, but a lot of people find that in the hard times, right? We need something a little bit more.
And I want our folks that are part of our network. I want them, one, to be good humans,
Yeah.
and if you're a good human, then you're able to provide a work environment for your employees, and that work environment for your employees helps build them up, and it's just this cascading effect where you are the centerpiece in a lot, and you got to think of your community and how many people you impact, and then, and not just monetarily, like this is you creating a community, and then you take the 10 farmers around you and all the people that work for them, and they go back into the community. If this thing spreads and you guys can really focus on who you are and build that piece, because it's okay for us to work on ourselves a little bit,
Hmm.
like a lot of times we don't want to go down that road, but it's okay.
Yeah.
And I feel like we've got to, for us, with the stress that's incurred from the financial side, the environmental stresses, the weather, like everything that we have, that's impacting our farm. It's one of those situations where we've got to take care of every aspect, or we're gonna stump our toe. We're gonna set back the operation. We're not gonna reach the goals that we want to reach and feel fulfilled.
Yeah. I think that saying, what got us here won't get us there. The
Hmm.
farmer that got us here won't get us there. And just sheer numbers, we have to do something different, right?
Yeah, and it's not taking away from those previous
No.
generations. I had a good conversation, and I will tell you, like, this particular individual has an ego. He's from the Midwest. He is the seventh generation,
Okay.
and so dad and granddad just turned the reins over to him. Again, we talked about timing. And so those two men they've built one heck of an empire. I mean, like, they have equipment that's paid for, they have land that's paid for, they have a cash base that they're operating from. They do not have an operating note. And for the first time, the kid, and I say he's a kid, he's late 30s, early 40s, took over the operation, lost $1 million this past year. There was some disease pressure, there was some marketing situations with basis. There were things that ended up losing money, and it's a large operation. Granddad and dad are looking at him and very judgmental.
Yeah,
And internally, it's tearing that kid apart because
totally.
it was his first chance and he failed
Oh,
in their eyes.
yeah.
But again, it goes back to timing. Like, this is not good next year, probably not going to be good.
Right.
Set the stage. We know what's going to happen economically. So we get it under control and we work at it. And I think for those generations to look at that, like, we've really got to be on our toes.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Okay, Jonathan. So let's change gears a little bit. I want to really dive a little bit deeper into Empire Egg, the work you do, and the farmers that come to see you. Who is that farmer that says, hmm, I need outside help? Who are
Yep.
those people?
Well, so you've really got two different types, I guess. You've got one that's like, we had kind of talked the Mayday farmer, like
Mm,
the, oh my gosh, I got myself over the skis. I've made some mistakes and I need help getting out of that. I just don't like this uncomfortable feeling in the business. How and where do I go? And then we've also got the faction that's more growth oriented, more hey, I need a coach. I've gotten myself this far, and I think I'm pretty good at where we are, but I need help getting to the next level. I can see there's some efficiencies, and I need to scale. I need to consolidate with, you know, get this thing to a level that creates the cash that I want the business to generate. And so those are really the two that we have. Age range, like I think we're 22 on the low end, up to I think our oldest is 50, 54 or 56. Um, so kind of a broad range. Um, and so it's been really interesting to kind of work with that demographic and just see where everybody's at. That it's like I tell some of the guys that feel like there's an issue, like, oh Lord, the world's coming down and I've got to fix this. Usually it's not an emergency.
mhm,
Usually we can take a very methodical approach about this and really evaluate what's going on in the business, really see where the direction needs to be focused on. Because I think in it, all of us have created an animal when it comes to our business. And a lot of times, the thing that we spend the most time on isn't making us any money.
mm,
And it's been interesting to kind of do some deep dives into some of these businesses and really find out like where they're spending, you know, 80% of their time. And it's usually on the non-productive, non-cash flow creating, enterprises.
mm. Not me sitting here being guilty in my media company too. I'm always doing that, right? Like,
Yeah.
where's my time best spent? So that's what you do. What does it look like when a farmer comes to you? Are you, I guess, having that session, like what's your goals? And then you dig into financials. What is that?
Yeah, so we usually kick off with like a 2 hour meeting. We allot 2 hours with that with each one of
Okay.
our producers. And we also like I'll have our team on that call also, so we can kind of really dig into to what they have going on. I do want, financials of some sort.
Right.
So some of them show up and they have beautiful financials. Things have been taken care of. You can tell and see their financial story. You know the pain points. You know where things are good, and I can see that because I've looked at enough of them now to really be able to fine tune into where those holes are in that business. And then you get guys with, I mean, a legal pad and some numbers written down on it, and they take a picture and send it to you, and you're like, wow, wow.
Boy. Yeah.
We're grossing 1.5 million, and we truly do not have um, good financial records. Like, and then you find out like their banker, they haven't, they've got a 4 or 5 year loan that so they don't even really worry about putting anything official together financially for the bank, but every 4 years or 5 years.
Okay.
And
Wow.
yeah,
Is that true? I spoke to one other guy and he said there are a lot of farm operations that are pretty much like money's in, money's out, and something's happening. Is that still
yeah.
happening?
Yeah, I would say that guys are starting to see the need to really be progressive in that. And the thing about it, and what we try to preach to our guys is, listen, like your loan officer at the bank may not, like, he may not be your best cheerleader because you haven't done a good job of telling your story, your financial story. You know, you're one of 1,000 farmers that they loan money to, and you've got the worst record. Like,
Mm,
that's not a good thing. Or you're on the other end of it, and like they can look through that, see it. You know you're getting the loan before you get in there because you've done a good job telling your story. And that's the thing that I think really differentiates our really successful guys that are on that growth mindset, versus someone that's scared to death that they're going to have to go meet with the banker.
Mm,
And
wow.
so that I really think like mindset's everything. A lot of times guys hide in the financial data because yeah, maybe there's some things in there that they are not proud of. Maybe there's a story that they've cooked up in their head that they do not want. It exposes weakness,
Right.
and we don't like that.
Yeah.
So I think that's important, and then we can kind of fine tune, from the marketing side of things, like really fine tune like what we're doing. Then we can look at equipment inventory, like are we really heavy on equipment? Like, what's our efficiency factors in some of these things? Like, where are we setting as a global business? And that's the piece that I think is fun to really dissect and see where some quick, easy grabs. My goal is for Empire Ag not to cost these guys a penny. I want to see either to create revenue or uh, either create revenue or cut expenses or figure out a way to save them money somewhere, that Empire Ag's just an automatic. You know, we're there to help them, to advise them. Um, and there's been times where we've not agreed on the direction, and that's okay.
Hmm.
I want them to know that I'm going to give them upfront and honest advice. They don't have to take it.
Right.
And so it's been really fun to work with our group over the years.
And I could just definitely see the value for farmers in this because of the skill set required. And, but here I see a big stumbling block that's probably changing with the generations. Financials are very personal, right? It's like,
They are.
it just almost feels like you're opening up the closet doors and then you feel like you're going to be judged. Oh, am I right? But
Yeah.
the joy of having a team like you guys come in, you're skilled financial professionals, you look and you go, okay, here we can adjust this, or here's an opportunity, or you might run into trouble. That's essentially what you're doing, right? You're the financial arm of a farm without us having to bring in five financial consultants, that type of thing.
Yeah, that's kind of our goal, is to create that one-stop shop that we can sit here and help them through this process and really hone in on what they need,
Okay.
and then hyper focus on that so that we can get them there, because like you said, they're wearing many hats. And for them, you know, operations is a big hat, and
Yeah.
whether it's livestock or grain, like just being in the business like is tough. Um, we're usually understaffed, like as a whole, and that's why we end up putting more hours in. So it's been interesting to watch these guys. Like I've had a couple operations that we were able to take things that they already do, but then add a revenue component to that. Like one of our one of our clients, he was doing 1.5 million in gross revenues. Well, just tweaking a few things about his business, he's going to do nearly 3.7. And
Wow.
we didn't have to make a big capital purchase. We didn't have to go buy any fancy new equipment. We were using everything that we already have, and just creating some streamlines and some new business ventures. Um, and it was great because it created more efficiency and added more profitability back into the operation. And
Nice.
that's pretty fun to see.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
And that took a 5 year window to create, but he's been with us for 5 years, and we talk every I bet we talk at least once a week, uh, back and forth, just about different ideas, things that are happening with the operation. And it's a different set of eyes. And I feel like I know my client's business as good as they do. So when they come to me with an idea, like it's really fun to be able to facilitate that and to work through that. Um, then just to kind of run some scenarios and see if it's going to be a net positive or a net negative.
Nice. And what a tremendous relief to have somebody there, right?
Hmm.
Where you look at the typical farmer, and if you don't have anybody there with you on the financial end, that's all you trying to figure it out. Where again, I always bounce back to corporate, where we
Yeah,
have a whole executive team that is managing and carrying the stress of the operation, right?
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think too, it allows someone on the other side. It allows someone on the other side to be able to um, almost be an intermediary between husband and wife. You
Mm,
know, because you may be spending 250 grand or $300,000 on whatever this capital expenditure is, and to them it may just be numbers. You know, like to them it may just be like, oh, do we need that? You know, is it a want or a need? Are we
yeah.
at that phase? And
Yeah.
then just kind of working through some of those relationship discussions and making sure that everybody, because most wives are 50-50 owner in the farm, you know, and so we need them to understand what and why and the direction that we're headed.
Nice.
'Cause I think it's important.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it's farm family business, right? And
Yep,
there's no concrete lines between that and what happens in the farm happens to the farm family, right?
absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm curious. You work with a lot of farmers. We
Hmm.
are in January 2026. We have a whole lot of stuff going on politically, tariffs, trade, all of that stuff. What does it really look like out there? I want to talk about the challenges because I'm always one
Yeah,
not to avoid that. I feel glossing over the hard stuff and like just focusing on the positive to me is not genuine because I love holding space in this
sure.
show to acknowledge that times are hard, but there is hope. So, why don't we go there? What does the industry look like right now? You mentioned a lot of consolidation, and that might be slowing down. Take this where you want to go.
Yeah, I think in years past, like we've gotten over humps by, just get bigger. You know, if you grew 5 to 10%, you could kind of cover up any mistakes, and you just continue to get bigger. I think we've hit that phase where right now the efficiency factor is not that great. You know, so getting bigger, I think a lot of the folks, like if you're farming 8,000 acres, you're not just jumping for joy to go pick up another 2,000 acres and hit the magic 10.
Mm,
You know, the guy that's farming 30 doesn't look for, he doesn't want to gobble up a 5,000 acre farmer right now.
right.
And, you start to look at that from a return standpoint, like economics rule all. If we're not making money, we're not going to expand.
Right.
And I think right now we're at a pivotal point where I think in agriculture, we're going to start to get paid on quality. So rather than the straight commodity based corn, wheat, soybeans, cattle, chicken, like what pork, whatever you are raising, the higher quality staple, variety that we have, I think is going to get paid on that quality, and there's going to be premiums attached to that.
Okay.
And I think that creates an opportunity right now. So if you're farming, and I'd say the bulk of farms in America are kind of in that 1,000 to 3,000 acre farms. I'd say that would kind of encompass a big chunk. So for those guys, I think how do you differentiate yourself from, the guy that's farming 10,000 or 15 or 20? I think it's building a brand,
Mm,
building a reputation, telling your story, but telling it in a way that the consumer understands and knows. And I will tell you what I personally am going to do and build within my Empire Ag network. Um, we've got producers with almonds, pistachios. We've got producers that grow produce, beef, pork, chicken, you name it. Like, let's create the Louis Vuitton of agricultural products. And I'm not going to be ashamed of that. If you're in Chicago or you're in New York, I want you to crave our products.
Mm,
Why not?
yep. Well,
We
that's where we're at as a world too. Like that, I'm kind of going to the influencer. Like we want a
Yes.
connection with people, and whether it's that influencer and we're buying this, it's that farmer that we're bought into their story, right? And we want to buy their beef.
Yep. Yep.
That's where you're thinking, like that value add, that farm to table direct. Is that what you're thinking?
Yeah, yeah, and I'm not saying that you have to go all in. I'm just saying that for some of these guys that are in that 1,000 to 3,000 acre area, like these are cash flowing things that you can produce, whatever that may be.
Yeah.
Everyone has their niche, everyone has their thing that they're doing, and do a good job. Create a brand that is trusted, that clearly articulates the you, the why. Why are you special?
Mm,
And we've got to be able to tell that message to the consumer.
yeah.
And there's going to be folks out there that say, "Hey, I'm not interested," and that's okay. But if you could add an extra $200,000 or $500,000 or $1 million in gross receipts back to your operation, why not?
That's game changing.
Yeah. I mean, I look at it like from an identity thing, like we get into our mind that like I want to be a corn farmer or I want to be a rancher. Like I am an agricultural entrepreneur and I will do whatever it takes to keep me in this business and grow whatever it takes to keep me in this business and provide products that my consumers appreciate. They love the education. They want to be a part of it.
Mm. Do you know Damian Mason?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, so he has been kind of shouting that from the rooftop for a long time, and I'm going to go economics here. And we look at the last well, 10, 15, 20 years in agriculture. It's bigger, more, feed the world. But
Yep.
in the meantime, the rest of the world has been going, we're up in our game, we're clearing land, we're getting bigger, we're getting better, and they're taking care of their own needs. So, also in the narrative of our industry, agriculture, North America, I don't think we're quite to the point where we're going, oh, we're not feeding the world so much anymore, right? And
Yep.
we haven't, and I think that's what you're saying. What got us here, like that corn farmer that is corn, again, he's not going to go all farm to table, but we're going to be in a different world now, farming, right? It's
Right.
not that bigger, more, better that we used to be. I think that's what we're starting to hear a little bit more of in the narrative of agriculture, right?
Yeah, it's definitely I think it's creating an opportunity for us to really be in touch with our consumer.
Mm,
And I think that's something that we've lacked in a commoditized product that, that we've all lived in, and I think it really allows us to kind of look for that value add and really shift the revenue side of it for us. I think a lot of us grow really great products.
yeah,
I think we do a lot of good things. I just don't think that we've been getting paid for it, you know,
right.
all this time because we're not good marketers. We haven't ran a vertically integrated business if you really get down to it.
Well, price taker versus price maker, right? And there's a few
That's
people saying that. Well, and you look at the sheer opportunity of the world that we live in, right? With social media, all the tools at our fingertips. We now have the ability to easily run one of these businesses. You look, and I'm not going to be stereotypical. It could be the husband or the wife or both or the whole family. But look at how many ladies, I'll just mention this here, ladies are on all the platforms. They build this huge following and they're doing like tallow lotion or
sure.
their farm. Like the opportunity is incredible to value add and
Yep.
be a price maker, not a price taker.
And tell the story of the
Right.
of the how you do it.
Yeah.
They want to know.
And
And
some,
I think you have to not be ashamed either of, you know, like things happen, drought happens,
right.
disease happens. Like tell the story of why you're having to treat certain crops with certain things. Like you don't
Mm,
have to run from it. And I think in agriculture, a lot of times we've had to, really adjust that. And I feel like that's a key piece that we've got to really kind of, you know,
yeah.
keep in the forefront.
Yeah. So I'm always interested right now. You're in the States, but we're being faced with some of the same tariffs and some of the same challenges that you guys are economically, supply,
Sure.
demand, all of that. How is it really? Like, what does it feel like? I mean, us cattle farmers, we're having our kick the can right now, but the grain
Yep.
farmers, like, how bad is it?
I would say for grain, margins are just so thin.
Okay.
I think we're at a pivotal point in the grain farming side where guys are really evaluating like what are we spending money on. It's always been get bigger, and it's always been
Right.
get more bushels.
Right.
So I think a lot of folks are really evaluating our fertility programs. What have we been sold? What are our chemical programs? Like what were we being sold and told we have to do or should do? The seed uh, varieties that we're doing to seed population. I mean, all of these things are being questioned. Which anytime those things are being questioned, it's a good thing.
Right.
It's a good thing. This is the only way we're going to get better because if we don't, it's times like this that we actually explore and sometimes maybe be forced into instead of 38,000 seeds per acre, we're planting 28, with a flex variety or doing whatever and saving 30 or $40 an acre. Or maybe we're looking at some of the biological products that are out there that we don't have to put that 120 or $30 an acre worth of nitrogen. And we're going to focus on a lot of the micros and trying to free up what's there.
Mm.
And so I think this has created an environment where guys are really looking at that expense structure to try to see if we can squeak a profit out. Um, and I will tell you, from a pricing standpoint, we don't have a price problem. We have an input cost problem.
Mm.
The cost structure, we've had every ounce profit mined out of us. If we look at the tariffs and that kind of thing, like have they really impacted us that much? I mean, China was already on the outs as far as purchasing grain from the U.S. I mean,
Mm.
that was kind of already at play. Why? At the time, they could buy it cheaper from Brazil. Uh, with the currency woes and the things that happened, U.S. actually became the cheapest at a certain point this past year compared to Brazil. And so we did sell some soybeans. We did sell some corn to different countries. And I think it's more of a global issue when we get to looking at currency is going to play big time in where they're going to source it. The
Okay.
other thing is logistics.
Yeah.
You know, like, what do the terminals look like? How quick can we get the product? If we pay for it now, what kind of risks do we have out there? And our consumers are looking at that exact same thing. As far as the tariffs go, I do just, and this may be only an American perspective, but I do feel like we've been taken advantage of by the world as a whole. Um, and rightfully so, we propped up and kind of built our own competitors, if
Right.
we want to get down to it. That's what's happened. As far as Canada goes, I think by and large, like our Canadian friends, I think we're all on the same page as far as like really most of them that I talk to, we are on the same page as far as our political, what we believe as far as trade, what we believe as far as certain things. Ottawa may live in a different world, um, but that's okay. I mean, there's spots in that just don't are not going to side with rural America, rural Canada, and I think we could go to any country and find that exact same thing. So I think there's a lot of commonality with the rural folks of the globe that are in agriculture, and I think we do have a tough row to hoe. I think we're at that pivotal spot where everything as it was, basic really, let's get down to COVID. Like pre-COVID was one way that the world worked. And I think after COVID, like it has just not recovered. I feel like we're not where things need to kind of be. Um, monetary policy and inflation, I think, are still going to be they're going to be an issue. I mean, I look at the debt load that America has, the tariff monies that have come in. God forbid they start some kind of a quantitative easing and start printing money out of thin air, then we will see inflation hit, which inflation for us, it's a double-edged sword. I want inflation so that corn is $8 or cattle or $5. Um, but I don't want to pay for the inputs with that inflationary dollar either.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
think that's where we're at this really pivotal spot.
Nice. So we have the challenges. I know, well, and I mean, we can't even speak to that because there's some, right? Every farm operation is so different, and some
They
are
are.
like debt free and they're okay. Some are like walking a strong operation and they lock in their commodities, they know their financials, they're doing good. Others were tight to begin with and a few bad years, and what are we looking at? There's no equity, we're selling off, right? So
Yes.
this is a big conversation. It's too hard to even
Yeah,
just ask one question, right?
yeah, and I think that's the dynamic that a lot of people don't want. They want to dance around, but like, yeah, there are operations that are absolutely profiting right now. They have zero debt. They've done well. They've got a system about it. Yeah, they're cutting costs. And on the surface, they've got newer equipment. They've got new pickups. They've got good farm sheds. They've got grain facilities that are phenomenal. Like there are things that we look at that, yes, people are profiting right now. And then you've got others that are on the verge of bankruptcy. And you mix that with a tough regulatory environment for the banking sector. And here in America, you have a lot of folks that their notes are getting called.
Wow.
So you look across the states and in different regions, um, there may have been a one or two branch bank in a community. Well, those are getting gobbled up right now,
Oh,
and there's a lot of consolidation in the banking sector. And so, um, what loans do you get rid of? You go through there and you look at the riskiest thing, no different than what happened to us in the 80s, and you get rid of some of your ag exposure, and maybe 30% of your loan portfolio has to go
wow.
just to balance things out so the regulators aren't, writing you up and telling you how bad you are at running the bank, and then you get fired if you're the president.
Wow. That's so different. I think your banking environment is just much more diverse and open in the US. Like there's small players, right? Like
Yeah,
here, we're pretty darn streamlined already. And a lot, like there's the big five in agriculture, there's Farm Credit Canada. That's
sure.
the big government backed ag lender. And then you have your provincial divisions. Then you have your local credit unions, which have been gobbled up. But,
Yep.
and then up here we have your TD, RBC, so we're pretty streamlined already. So
Hmm.
hearing, and I mean, if you're not making your payments, your loan's going to be called, but
Sure.
we don't quite hear of it the same as the Americans, where it's like, oh, they came in, bought the bank, and you're under review. Like that to
Yeah.
me just seems insane.
Yeah, so a lot of folks are just kind of getting squeezed out, where the banks are just tightening up on them. Where for the last 10 years they've operated at this particular bank, zeroed out their loan in March. With all the grain getting sold, a lot of it's already contracted, uh, and they need fuel money. I mean they've got to be able to get the trucks rolling to get the grain delivered, and they won't let them draw on their note for operating, for payroll, for whatever it is, until it's a zero.
Oh,
Well, I mean, it's this catch 22. It's like you
yeah.
want the money. I've got the grain. The grain is already sold, but now I need the money to be able to haul it. And I've got 6 trucks sitting here, drivers in them. I need payroll, and I need to be able to put diesel in the truck.
Wow.
And it's just and it's not every day, but like we're catching those conversations a little more frequently. We're catching a few where literally I talked to one bank and they just almost drew numbers out of a hat, and it was like, we're getting rid of this one, we're getting rid of this one, and we had to get 30% of our portfolio gone.
Wow.
And some of these people, I do not know. Um, I do not know why um, they're doing this, you know. And some of these guys are really good credits and have good history, a lot of equity. Like some of these guys are 20, 30%, you know, equity, or 20 to 30%, you know, debt load, debt
Yeah.
to equity ratio. And it's just, it's one of those things that it makes no sense why they're cutting them loose right now.
That seems in my mind when I hear that, I'm like, well, that's a good time partner in life, right? Like your bank likes you when commodities are good and then things get tough. They're like, oh, let's not partner anymore. I'm like, wow.
And I think what's bad is Bloomberg put out that article about how bad the ag economy was, and literally the next week was when we started getting a lot of pushback.
Oh no.
And a lot of it. I think they're just trying to shore things up before it gets really bad.
Yeah.
Um, and I don't know how bad or how deep it gets. I know that's one of the reasons we created EA Capital, was because I'm like, you know, sometimes these guys they just need to be able to get to the other side, you know, and I see where they're at. I see the struggles. And sometimes our banks you know, just they're limited on what they can do due to the regulatory environment. It's not that they're bad people. It's not that they're evil. Uh, but it goes back to just literally their hands are tied. And I try to help facilitate that. If we can come in and help come up with a streamlined procedure to reallocate whatever the debt load is, to get it to where it fits everybody's, you know, metric, everybody feels good about it, then that's kind of where we come in and try to help facilitate that. Um, it's 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 interesting to watch this thing unfold and to be on this realm. Um, we're working on some things right now to have a much larger impact. And we're working with USDA on getting that done. So it's going to be interesting, and I'll look forward to kind of letting that out whenever we get that finished and done.
Okay.
So tune in if you guys are listening, and kind of keep track of us. We'll know something later this year, I'm hoping. So
Mm, I'm excited to hear more. You know, we need a lot of out of the box solutions, lending, ideas,
yeah,
frameworks right now, right? Um, okay, so for I want to wrap up with succession and words of wisdom and opportunity for the next generation because it's so easy to focus on the challenges right now, right?
yeah.
And I even do it because that's what needs to be solved. But we also have a generation that we want to nurture into the industry. So for those young guys that want to take over, want to
Yep.
get in, they're looking at succession. What are the words of wisdom and encouragement to these younger generations?
I will tell you, if you're in a succession type situation, and you're putting in the sweat equity, time, and effort, and maybe you're 10 years into this journey, and you're in your late 20s, early 30s, maybe mid 30s, have the hard conversation now.
Mm, yeah.
Don't lose the best growth years of your life without a plan. And the thing is you will be shocked at how many families that I've seen the sons come back to the farm, work for 20 years for nothing. And when it comes down to it, dad will not let go.
Mm,
Flat out will not let go.
yeah.
And there are out of the box ways of doing this. And there's ways of utilizing investments. There's ways of creating wealth and having a true plan, but it takes time to execute that plan. And I will say this: if there are hard feelings, if there are um, disagreements between members of the family, like this is where, like during our succession plans, I like to have those hard conversations and facilitate that. One, I don't have to live there. everybody at the table can hate me whenever we're done, but if I did my job and those hard conversations were taking place and we ripped the band-aid off and we solved that stuff there, because those a lot of those things are blocking progress. They're blocking the ability to do that. There's something you did when you were a kid that your dad's holding over. I mean, you would laugh at some of the things that are keeping some of this stuff moving. And it's like you're a 35-year-old man that is making every decision on the farm, but your dad says you're not ready. And you're not ready because he looks at you and sees a 15-year-old kid that screwed up and wrecked a pickup into a fence or whatever he did back then, and he cannot get past whatever it is. There is a hurdle to jump. And some of them get even deeper. That's a very shallow, example, but some of them get extremely deep where there's two generations back and it's how their great grandfather treated them when they were a kid, and you get into some of the deep that's there. And until you can clear that blockage, succession's not going to it's not going to happen.
Oh my goodness. You hit the nail on the head. That's a lot of the conversations I like to have is like that deep
Yeah.
communication and psychology stuff. Because like you just said, you ruined the pickup when you were 15, but that is like the thing that the founder is holding on to, because really he doesn't actually want to let go, because really grandpa, his dad, did the same. Like that's like
Yeah.
five layers of the onion deep. And then meanwhile, the farm founder is just saying, "Oh, we're busy with harvest, right?" But there's all
Yeah.
those
But
things.
or my favorite is like, what is your plan for retirement? Well, I don't plan on retiring.
Mm,
And that's when we get into that deep rooted, you know, body, mind, and spirit. Like what is your true purpose of being here? And what I'm finding is a lot of boomers have lost the true guide of where they're headed and
mm,
what they're wanting to do. Like they're working, but like they do not know which direction they're headed.
mm.
And I think that is tough.
Yeah, that's not a conversation about farm financials. That's a big, yeah,
Yeah.
big, deep conversation. Okay. So for the next generation, and also I think there's an element too, the last 15, 20 years have been really good, right? Like even us, I mean, the beef guys, we've had our ups and downs, but the
Yeah.
grain,
Yeah.
it's been strong. So now
Yeah.
we're coming into that time where, like you said, it's not consolidating, it's holding and tightening up. But for the unfortunate young ones that are coming in, it's like, oh, am I ever going to be able to do this? Right?
Yeah. And I think patience, if I had to give those guys, um, I think one, if you're in a family operation looking at the succession piece, then like, yes, have those hard conversations now, start working through that process, but also be patient. I mean, this time will pass. There will be good times in agriculture again. And you're going to hear that it's never, it's never going to be a prosperous time in ag and, and all that good stuff. But I'm telling you, we live in cycles, and this too shall pass. Timing's everything. You could wait 1 year that's going to put you 10 years ahead. And that doesn't mean you can't plan and think through the processes, think through the details.
Yeah.
I think that's important.
And save, get yourself in a good position,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
To be able to take advantage of when it starts going up
Hmm.
or when that piece of land comes up, whatever it is, right? I've heard you say that too.
Yeah, because I feel like if you can get yourself into a good spot where you've got a chunk of cash, there are investment vehicles out there that are giving better returns than 7 to 10%. Um, and you've got to look. It's not your traditional investments, but they're out there, and you start compounding those. You know, 1 year turns into 5 years. Like next thing you know, you've got a sizable amount that could technically debt service your whole farm, you know, and you start to look at some of those opportunities that are out there that we haven't had in 20 years. Like those are the things that are kind of creative, and I think thinking outside the box. I think the other thing that's kind of coming is like fractional investment. So
Mm,
like let's say you own a farm, you own and control it, but maybe you pay your shareholders a dividend or a percentage of the income or revenue that's there, and they're picking up 50% of the value of that, and they're holding that asset. Um, there's some opportunities out there to do some things like that where, and I know as a farmer, we want to own everything that touches us.
yeah.
Um, and we don't want to give up any, but like when you look at the total capital outlay for purchasing that farm, sometimes it makes sense that you don't own everything.
Mm,
And this is where I think you've really got to look at you being a steward of money, you being a steward of assets. And that's what I think is important.
nice. Okay, this has been a deep, full, valuable conversation. I know we could even go into opportunities, challenges, even more. Succession could be 5 episodes with you.
Oh
Finances
yeah.
could be 5 episodes. Those were very motivating and uplifting words to leave on because I believe that. And I'm trying to make a point to end on a note that's positive. This too shall
Yeah,
pass. I was thinking of that the other day. This too shall pass, and your time will come if you're the next generation, right?
absolutely.
So I'm curious if there are people in the audience, whatever situation they're in, they need
Mhm.
the help urgently, or they just want to make sure that they are top-notch operators. How can they connect with you to learn more about you guys and the work you do?
So all of our social channels, it's at Your Ag Empire, and then also at www.youragempire.com, and book a discovery call. It doesn't cost you anything, and we'd be glad to visit with you and see where you're at.
Excellent. What a valuable service that you guys are doing. And that's why I'm so happy to have you on the show because I think farmers need this type of support, just like other businesses have. This coming into agriculture and becoming popular, amazing. So thank you for the work that you guys are doing.
Thank you.
You are so welcome. If you guys in the audience enjoyed this episode, like it, share it, and get it out there. And make sure to check out their website and learn more. Thank you guys. We'll see you next week. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Tracy.
You've been listening to Impact Farming. For more great episodes and articles designed to help you manage and grow your farming operation, head on over to farmmarketer.com. Don't forget to sign up while you're there. We will see you on the next episode.